Hi, I'm LeTonya Moore, and I want to welcome you to Mastering Limitless Success. Today I have with me Kathy Moore, founder of Broken Pillars Incorporated. Kathy, how are you today?
I'm fine, LeTonya. How are you?
I'm doing just fine. Could you tell our audience just a little bit about Broken Pillars?
Basically, Broken Pillars came about because it was placed in my heart to help individuals to restore their foundation, to help them rebuild their lives that have been broken down by various circumstances, and I just want to be able to help them rebuild.
Awesome. That is so wonderful. I know I've heard several talks that you've had, and one of your concepts, you talk about this concept of life and death in the tongue. And I think that is so powerful, and I'd like for you to share a little bit about that with our viewers.
Well, basically, I believe that we have the power to determine our lives based on what we feed into our spirit. So, for example, if there's an illness in your body, and we understand that doctors are placed here to help us, but we don't have to accept that illness. We can speak to that illness, and that illness can go away. We don't have to accept that illness.
Well, that's awesome, because what I hear you say is words into action, and I know I've heard you actually say that several times. And so share with us a little bit about even the concept of having that illness. And so what are things that you can do, because when you hear something from a professional, that's something that is extremely powerful. So what are some tools that our viewers can utilize to reframe when they do get that bad news? For example, a health scare that everyone's thinking about. What are some tools and tips that they could use to turn words into action in a positive way?
Well, one of the tools that I've used personally, and I've also advised others to use, are scriptures. Scriptures that may deal with your particular illness. You can speak those scriptures daily. You can also read books. You can also maybe talk and interact with other individuals that have went through that same illness to encourage you, to empower you, and to uplift you. And also, you will want to not surround yourself with negative people. And we know we have people in our lives that they have our well-being, but sometimes they can be so negative. They just want us to accept what has been given to us. And not only that illness, also those of us that maybe have been unemployed. We think that after we go after interview and we're not called back for a job, we decide that this is it, this is how it's going to be. We're going to be unemployed for our lives instead of saying, well, what do I need to do to regroup? What am I doing in these interviews that people are not calling me back? So what we do, we look at our resumes. We might even seek the assistance of professional coaches, which I have done. We also might do a journal. We also might do different type of boards, a vision board. These are one of the things that I have learned through my professional coaching. Things that we want out of life, we can visualize them. And also I've spoken about journals. We want to surround ourselves with positive people. We also can network, join different organizations to help us accomplish where we're trying to go. But one of the main things is that we just want to feed positive energy into our spirits. Surround ourselves with positive people.
Well, that's awesome. And so what I hear you saying is that we want to till our soil.
Yes.
We want to invest. We want to invest the time. We want to talk with people. And we really want to live our lives the way that we want it to be. And we want to make these things happen. I've also heard that you've created a very interesting concept called the garden concept, and I would like for you to really share a little bit about that, the premise of it. I know that you have a complete seminar about that, but if you could just share a couple of tips with our viewers, I'd really appreciate it.
Well, sure. I was in a conversation with someone about the power of words, and I can honestly tell you that in my own life, this is just not something that I'm just sharing with you to be sharing with you. This is something that I went through in my own life through various circumstances. And once I stopped turning those negative words, into positive words, I've seen a transformation take place in my own life. And I can tell you that once you start speaking these positive words, you will also see a positive transformation. Now the garden concept is about, think about you want to plant a garden. Now whatever that seed may be, you might want to plant a vegetable garden, you might want to plant flowers, whatever your garden want to be. You first have to start out with that seed. And you have to plant that seed into a fertile soil. Because what happens if you don't plant that seed in fertile soil, you plant it on rocky ground, what's going to happen? That seed is not going to grow. But you also have to give that seed some sunlight sometimes. But what happens with too much sunlight? It'll scorch your seed. Some water, you also have to give that seed some water. Too much water will drown your seed. So basically, and you just have to till it and give it some love and care. And just like with that seed, if it doesn't get just the amount of water, the amount of sunlight, the right fertile soil, your tender care, plucking out those weeds. And if we want to just kind of associate with our lives, with the seeds, weeds are negative words. Weeds are negative people. Weeds are just accepting what someone has spoken into your life from birth until now. But then the positive is that you're actually given what you need. You're starting to apply. You're starting to speak into yourself that I am somebody. I will be somebody. Stop comparing your outsides to somebody else's insides. Don't look at what somebody else is doing or what is for somebody else. Understand that what is for you is for you. And only you can make that happen by surrounding yourself with the right people. Surrounding yourself with writing down your thoughts. Because sometimes, you know, our negative thoughts also feed into our spirit. So these are just certain ways that you can help yourself become the positive person that you want to be. And speaking those, learning the power of words and looking at your life as a garden, and that the seeds that you're planting, the words that you're planting into your life, are they producing positive or are they producing negative? And if nothing is growing, then you can look at that seed where you just put too much negative into your life. And even with that seed, if you put too much soil down, it's going to drown your seed. So you have to have just enough to get you to where you want to be. And if you always remember that there are power in words, that you can speak to your circumstances, and your circumstances will change. And you also have to change with your circumstances. That's just like with your garden. Well, if it's getting too much sunlight, what are you going to have to do? You're going to have to give it a little shade. If it's getting a little too much water, you're going to have to do something if you got to put a gutter around it, whatever you have to do to keep that water from just drowning out your seed. Don't let the negative drown out your positive. And that's kind of like where the garden concept comes from.
I love it. I absolutely love it. And I think, folks, what we really heard today is when we're talking about this opulent journey of mastering limitless success, and we're thinking about things like Minister Kathy Moore has shared with us today, you have to ask yourself, who am I surrounding myself with? And where am I going to get it, and what am I doing when I get there? And when we think about applying that to the garden concept, where we go is our soil. And I love the fact that you said you have to start with the right soil and the right seed at the right time with the right tools. And that's what we want you to get out of today's segment. Now, Kathy, for our viewers who would like to contact you, could you give them a little bit more information about how to get in touch with you? For example, if they'd like for you to come and share your garden concept potentially with their groups.
Yes, you can contact me at my email address, and that's Moore, M-O-O-R-E-L-E-B as in Victor, O-N-N-E @yahoo.com.
Excellent. And as always, you're looking for something that we're doing at Opulence Enterprises, you go to www.opcoach.com. Call us at 813-384-7606, and you can email us at info@opcoach.com. Until next time, master your limitless success.